What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Spark to Fire. My name is Landon Rhodes. I'm your host, and today I'm here with Blake Pittack, a custom builder in Lincoln, Nebraska, and a really good friend of mine. Thanks for coming on the show, Blake.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. We're going to go into a little bit of Blake's story, and then this is a little bit different episode for Spark to Fire, as he and I are both in the earlier stages of our entrepreneurial journey. You know, Blake's, you've been in business for 3 years now?
Yep.
3 years now. I'm coming up on 2 years in May. So we're both in what I would consider our very early stages of entrepreneurship. We're still learning a lot. We're constantly growing, looking for new opportunities.
Making mistakes.
Yeah, that too. Making plenty of mistakes. So I just want to give you a few minutes, give us kind of a 5-minute rundown of where you came from, what you were like as a kid, and what brought to you, what made you the person kind of that you are today, and what made you do what you did.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I'm originally from Fremont, and decided to go to college up at Wayne State, actually, to be a teacher.
Wow.
As an industrial tech teacher, like a shop teacher. Then I realized I didn't want to be in the classroom anymore. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be basically locked in, you know, into a classroom from 8 to 3 per se, and decided to switch. I was year 2 to construction management, and that went very, very well. I enjoyed the hands-on learning, literally swinging a hammer and learning how to frame a wall, etc. And then, managing projects, getting building permits, scheduling, working with clients. And then at that point, when I was a junior or so in college, is when I realized eventually, I know it wouldn't be right after college, but eventually I want to own my own business. I want to learn how to do everything and then be on my own. So as a junior in college, I had interned at a large commercial construction company here in Lincoln. Worked for them for 5 to 6 years, went to a couple other smaller firms here in Lincoln, and then I decided to take the leap. And that was one of the scariest but most rewarding things I've ever done.
What year was that?
That would be 2017.
2017, so 3 years. So 2017, you quit your job and you decided you're going to go out into the big bad world of entrepreneurship. Did you have a wife at that time?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
What did she think about that?
Well, a little story about that. She extremely supportive. And to be honest with you, she's one of the few that was supportive, which is huge to me because my family, my immediate family, my brother, my mom and dad, both, they're not entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So everyone is used to the security of the corporate world and, right. The paycheck's always the same and retirement and all that stuff, the comfort of it. And I'm more of a risk taker. And decided to take the risk. And I wouldn't say my family wasn't supportive, but of course they always ask the what ifs.
Right.
And then your mind goes back and you always want to start it. And then it's like, I'll wait until the time's right. One thing I learned is the time is never right. So we decided, my wife and I literally made a list of the things that could go right and the things that could go wrong and how we could control them.
Yeah.
And we decided to pull the trigger, and in February I walked away from the steady paycheck, the benefits, etc. And luckily my wife had the benefits package and moved that to her, and I was able to take that leap. So
got it. So what happened right when you jumped? I mean, usually what happens is everyone's like, oh, I got this deal locked down, got some revenues taken care of to take care of my paycheck. Mm-hmm. I've got, maybe a few jobs lined up. I know that happened to me when I quit my job. I was like, okay, I've got this large account that should be able to pay my rent and then some. Shouldn't be an issue. I literally left my job, and then 1 or 2 weeks later, I lost the account.
Yeah, and you didn't sleep at night, did you?
So I'm really weird that way. I right now, and this is how I currently am. I'm not saying it's gonna be this way in the future, but I literally don't stress that way. I don't stress lose sleep over that sort of stuff. What I do is I'll think during the day constantly and just burn myself out. Right. Internally, but but I'm trying to get way better at that too, managing the highs and the lows. Yeah. And speaking of kind of second year things, that's something I think I learned a ton about is managing the highs and the lows in the last 2 years.
Emotions are huge.
Yeah.
For not only yourself as an entrepreneur going on your own, but managing, trying to understand the emotions of whether it's your clients or your family or your, friends. Yeah. I mean, there's so many emotions. You're getting all these different texts or calls or emails about different stuff and trying to understand all of it and putting it all together, and also trying to prioritize everything. But going back to your, the corporate world, leaving the corporate world, I had 2 contracts. I had signed up for a pre-sold custom home.
Okay.
And those 2 contracts were basically going to take me for the next 6 to 8 months and make me approximately about the money that I was making in the corporate world per year.
Okay.
So I figured if I can get these 2 jobs going and make the same amount of money while those are going at nighttime, I can work on social media, advertising, whatever I need to do to get that next job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as soon as I left the corporate world, about 2 weeks after, one of the clients decided they didn't want to build. And that was the bigger of the 2. Heart sank. Wife and I were like, okay, now what? So we stayed kept moving forward and did the 1 custom home the first year instead of 2. My pay basically, or income, was cut in half for the first year.
Fun.
Luckily, we had some money set aside to cover something like this, and it all worked out. But during that first couple months, it was extremely scary. And the unknowns. It's like, oh, all these people that doubted me were they right?
Were they right? Yeah.
So you question yourself, during those moments, and you just got to really, like you're kind of keep your nose to the grindstone, basically, and just focus and kind of blur out that outside noise and stay focused on what your end goal is.
You build this home.
Mm-hmm.
You build this home, and you've just got 1 home to do instead of 2 now. And how is your mindset when you're going into that home? Are you all in on that 1 home? Are you constantly still looking for more deals, or what are you thinking?
Funny you say that. So my very first home, I spent literally probably 6 to 8 hours a day at that home.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need to. All the other builders would probably laugh at me because I was there for that much time, when they might have a guy that checks in on a half hour a day when I'm managing subcontractors. But I was trying to really, really, really dial in and learn the process a little more.
Right.
I knew how to build stuff, but at the same time, what can I learn to better myself and better the company? Mm-hmm. And, that first house, I was there every day. Weekends I checked in on it. My wife would tell you we spent a lot of time just driving by there at nighttime, just making sure the doors were locked. I was extremely paranoid about that very first house. That was my baby. Yeah. And I spent maybe an hour a day not doing that house. Yeah. Looking back, I probably should have. It all has worked out, obviously, but looking back, I probably should have spent like 2 to 4 hours a day maybe there, and then the other half of the day business development. So yeah,
I think that's you weren't afraid to micromanage that process in the very beginning.
Right.
And micromanagement obviously is not a good thing in the long term. Nobody likes it. It's leaders don't like it. The people that you're managing don't like it. Right. But at the beginning of when you start, I think it's necessary because you're working on the craft itself, and you're working on the us as content.
The process.
It's the content and the process. And so in the early stages, I have no problem. If it's something brand new, something early, micromanaging that little bit, just because you want to show what perfect looks like and set that expectation. But if you never set the expectation, it's open for interpretation, and then that leaves everything wide open.
Yeah, that very first job, you wouldn't even see a scrap 2x4 that's 12 inches long laying around the job.
Which is unheard of.
Now we might see some, of course.
Which is unheard of in home building.
But I was trying to keep the house absolutely perfect, organized, and really set a standard on that first home that we were still trying to do, but now it's a process because I'm delegating some stuff to some project managers, and we're trying to better the process. Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit to today. So you've gone from just building 1 home, losing the other one, to now what are you guys up to today?
We've got 5-6 homes going right now, and then we've also got it's a residential / I'd call it like multifamily row house project going here in Lincoln, and looking at doing starting some townhomes here really soon as well.
Nice.
So we've got quite a bit of work. We're extremely blessed. And what do I attribute that to? I would say very hard work in the first year, and the second year, and getting to know people. I wasn't afraid, and I'm still not afraid to go out and just meet someone blindly that I've never met before for coffee and walk around that coffee shop trying to find out, oh, are you John, or are you John?
Yeah.
And I would go meet people, and I still do, to get my name, my brand out there, and just staying in touch with the important people too.
Yeah.
Don't ever burn bridges. That's a big thing. I still talk to all my old bosses that I worked for. I just saw one of them at a coffee shop here a couple weeks ago and talked to him for a little while about how business is going. He asked me how business is going. We have, a good relationship. So
you'll probably build his house someday.
Yeah, you never know.
Like that's the big thing, because you were in commercial world. They weren't home builders where you were working before. So I think about that all the time. And it's so true, because we had a client that actually had to fire us because something went wrong with their business, and we were the first to get cut. But then obviously, which means we didn't solidify ourselves as a partner that wasn't worth severing, right? So we had, they had to let us go, but then, we did such a good job managing that process and not overreacting, not burning a bridge, keeping the relationship, and they know who they are. I don't have to say them on here, but the big piece with that is making sure that the relationship was above the money.
Right.
It's people over profit when it comes to business, in my mind.
That's right.
And that's the way I look at it is, yes, you have to make money. Yes, it's a medium, and it's a scoreboard. Like, people are keeping track. It's the only thing people keep track of. I'm sure
Absolutely.
you've heard that before.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, if you can manage those relationships and keep those people just within your group and keep a positive keep a positive reputation around them.
Right.
Great things just tend to happen.
Yep.
And
they just kind of roll.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yep. And I'm sure you found that, because it's not, you don't go knocking on doors saying, oh, can I build your new custom home?
Right.
People hear about you.
Yep.
And people see you on LinkedIn, because you've been super active on LinkedIn and super active on Facebook. How's that been going for you, creating that content and trying to get that out there? What's that been like for you?
Yeah. So right now it's been me, because I'm still obviously watching the bottom line of the company until I can hire someone like you guys.
Right.
So,
and then we're hired.
Yeah, there you go. But no, I would highly suggest any entrepreneur or person getting started, absolutely push out as much media as you need to. I couldn't tell you exactly how many times a day and that stuff. That's not my wheelhouse or whatever, but I try. My goal is at least post once a day on Facebook and Instagram, and then LinkedIn maybe every couple days.
Yeah.
My opinion from a builder, LinkedIn is extremely important right now. What we call organic reach on LinkedIn is way better on LinkedIn than Instagram or Facebook. I'm reaching people that are qualified, I feel like, and that are successful people that, most of them have, college degrees or masters or, whatever they are. And they're the people that are either going to build a home someday or might have a friend that's going to build a home someday.
Right.
Instagram, Facebook, I feel is more, brand awareness, get my name out there. Some of the followers on Instagram might be from, California or, Florida, and they're not going to build a house with me, but I still also enjoy educating people. A lot of my posts are about education and trying to explain the process. So just giving free information, because why not? It helps.
Yeah. Blake's for anybody that's looking to build a custom home or looking to just even some home improvement facts, I've watched you talk about just like general home kind of, not home safety, but like just general things to look for when you are a homeowner. For like
home maintenance.
Yeah, home maintenance. Yeah. So checking out home maintenance, that sort of stuff. Like you're really thinking about the customer, and you're putting the customer first. And that's what matters, because the people that are going to buy your homes the next 10 to 20 years, they're not looking for someone to go, like cookie them on Facebook and send them to a landing page to buy a home. It's brand. They want to buy a brand. They want to buy trust. They trust you. And I had a big conversation about that yesterday too, about how at the end of the day, our job is to educate this consumer so they can make the best decision possible. Ideally, that decision is with us, but we want to educate them and make sure that they see us as the expert in the field. And I think about that with my business and with your business both. And you've already done a really good job of that. So thanks for posting that content, because people need to know that information. So
there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people, when you walk in a room, you see drywall. Well, what's behind the drywall?
Right. And how
there's insulation, there's this, and we're just trying to show them the process. So if they do build a home someday, they can already understand that a little more. So.
Yeah, because they want to be more educated, and they want to be able to tell their friends like, oh, actually, it's actually an R12.
Right.
It's actually R12 installation by there.
Right.
But some people don't care about that. But I think there's definitely a certain amount of folks that like enjoy knowing the micro details about their house. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, we have clients all the way from they'll step on the job 4 times out of a 6 to 7 month period, and we have clients that are there every day.
Yeah.
So and again, going back to managing emotions as a custom home builder and light commercial as well, the custom builder side, the emotions are huge. We have swings, absolutely.
Sure.
Managing people's expectations, that we're trying to get better at that. It's definitely something that the best home builders are really good at, making sure the expectations from the beginning are met and followed through on the whole process. We failed at that a couple times. I'm not, it's going to be honest. It's tough.
Yeah.
But it's something that we're trying to better ourselves. So
yeah, definitely. That's managing expectations and building process around customer relationship is massively important too, for anybody that's considering starting a business. So how has that evolved for you since the very beginning? So talk about what it was like on day one versus like what it's like today, as far as your expectation and process, and then just your managing customer relations. Like, how has that changed for you?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is now, so that first year, again, it was just me. So it's actually fairly easy to manage those expectations. Talk to the client every day. We use a cloud-based platform for project management called Builder Trend.
Shout out to Omaha.
Yeah.
We'll be interviewing you too.
Right here,
for you.
Right here out of in Omaha, Nebraska, and they're worldwide. They got over 500 employees. They have helped as far as expectations, managing them with the communication of daily logs and schedules and photos and all that stuff. They've helped that. But then fast forward to year 2 and 3, and I've got a couple project managers that are working for me, and I should say working with me.
Yeah.
They're working with me. We're a team, and the processes are still evolving and trying to understand how to communicate with clients and when to communicate with clients and how often to. And that's definitely a process that's evolving.
It's also based upon the client, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Some people require, some people are going to require more attention. Some are going to.
You hit it.
I literally had somebody in a meeting. It's one of my favorite things I've heard. It's really funny. One of our clients, he looks at me when we were in our kickoff meeting. He's like, I'm like, well, we can meet monthly or we can meet biweekly. And he goes, listen, Landon, I'm not a big meetings guy. I'm like, okay, well, we can meet monthly or every other month if you want. He's like, that sounds great because I don't like meetings. I'm like, and then we have clients that are like, I want to meet biweekly and we can't miss one. And, and that's fine. Like I like both of those things, because at the end of the day, it's about your experience. And as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Right. You're satisfied with the products.
And the whole meeting thing, it's funny you say that, because we're going through a time now with the virus as well, where we're trying to do more Zoom meetings. Like here later on today, we have a Zoom meeting with a potential client, real estate agent. We're all going to be wherever we're at and talk about the process. And so it's interesting, but if the technology is there, why not use it if we can? Yeah. Instead of stopping the business.
So you'd say meeting. So yeah, and kind of introducing this into the podcast, because we haven't talked about this at all, but kind of current, up to date. We've COVID-19 that's coursing through the public veins at the current time. Nebraska's got quite a few confirmed cases, or just a few confirmed cases at the time being. And there's certain cities that are on lockdown. We've got New York, California. California alone is the 5th largest economy in the world, I believe. So they've got 40 million people, I believe, on lockdown. And the definition of lockdown and shelter in place it's variant based upon a state. It's also it varies in general, like across every region. But basically what it means is, you're not supposed to leave the house unless you have a reason to leave the house. And a good reason would be, obviously work is still a good reason. But what we're seeing right now is, restaurants are facing massive losses. They have you have to have less than 10 people, and 10 people or less inside of your restaurant. A lot of restaurants have gone to curbside pickup only. Coffee shops, same thing. The cafes are closed. If you've got a drive-through, you can use it. And then people are basically making drive-throughs if they can. So yeah, this whole thing has been crazy to watch. I mean, the stock market's dropped
Yeah.
30% in a week or so.
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm.
it was an unprecedented move from what my mom told me, and it's really interesting to see how the world handles this sort of situation. And what I really love is, so you're a big Gary Vee fan.
Absolutely.
So Gary Vee talked about this for like 6 years before this happened. But he's like, can't wait until the world melts so all the fake entrepreneurs go away.
Yeah.
And it talks about like people selling their fancy t-shirts on Instagram or like fancy jewelry on Instagram and calling themselves entrepreneurs. And by the way, like if you got to hustle, like I fully support that. I think that's awesome. But you have to be ready to weather these sort of times. And you really have to love it. And you really have to give your entire life to it.
Be your passion.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about this is the second COVID hit, like in the last week or so, like all of those ads disappeared off my feed. From Movement Watch. Well, Movement Watch is doing amazing. They're incredible entrepreneurs. But like everything that looks like Movement Watches, all those little jewelry brands and t-shirt brands and all this stuff, all the ads stopped. And it just makes you wonder, like, okay, you know, what is the definition of a quote essential business?
Right.
You know, because the CDC has been publishing those as what's considered essential. And it really makes me consider as an entrepreneur, what is essential,
right.
And what does the world see as essential when the world burns? Because a grocery store, I didn't realize, you know, like watching grocery stores during this panic has been so interesting to me.
Yeah. And I was in Lowe's the other day, actually picking up a couple things, and the cashier, I just kind of went to talk to her about it, how it's affecting her. And she actually said Lowe's is considered an essential business, which I thought was really interesting. But at the same time, you know, there's, you know, construction projects and home improvement projects that are going on that need to happen, or, you know, whatever, there's, you know, a leak in a roof and they need to get shingles or whatever it is.
I look at it that way. Broken window.
Yes.
Yeah, broken window. That's going to affect your living situation.
But she was shocked, and I actually kind of was too. I didn't think about, you know, I wouldn't think Lowe's is essential, right, to be honest with you. But
and I've seen so this is not something that is boilerplate at this point. Like there's a lot of different definitions of essential businesses. So I'm excited to see what they continue releasing, because I looked at Business Insider had an article and listed construction as a non-essential business. Really confused by that. It's like things still have to get built. There's expectations on all ends.
Right.
So that's been really interesting to watch, because I think a lot of people would consider advertising as a quote non-essential business. Yeah. Because, you know, they have to focus on core processes and just focus on the internal employees and reduce the external expense. But it's been very interesting to watch all of that happen. So how have you directly been affected, other than your Zoom meetings? Have you been directly affected by COVID-19?
So far, we are very blessed, and we have not. Absolutely. Knock on wood for sure. The some of our suppliers, for example, like ABC Supply, if you need to get something, you're not supposed to go in there and grab it from the guys. They're going to set it out for you. You're going to pick it up from outside the building, or reduced hours by some of those suppliers. But as far as the actual, you know, leads or you know, actual process of a project, so far everything has kept moving forward. So I you know, a lot of these trade workers are also they are check to check, to be honest with you.
Sure.
So
contract. Yeah.
So they're, you know, if they're check to check and their job shuts down, that's a big deal, just like the restaurants and bars. Yeah. So right now we're fortunate enough where, you know, some of our houses, we only got a couple guys in it at a time. So they try to keep their distance. Of course, we're trying to promote, you know, hand sanitize and all that stuff. Right. But there's only so much you can do too. Right. But as long as they follow the CDC guidelines, that's all we ask.
Yeah, that's kind of what we've done. We've reduced our hours in the office, where we're all kind of like working together. We've gone remote for every day that we're not in production. We're post-producing from home, or we're, you know, doing strategy from home. And then we had one of our team members yesterday that was not feeling well. So, you know, she missed a kickoff, or she remoted in on Zoom for a really important kickoff meeting yesterday. But
and it worked just fine, didn't it?
It worked just fine. Yeah. At the end of the day, like the client completely understood. They prefer that she stayed home instead of came to the meeting.
Right.
And that's the kind of climate we're in right now, is people would much rather you follow those guidelines than not, because everybody understands how serious this is. And I think that we're taking it very seriously, and we don't want to see what happened to Italy. We don't want to see what happened to China. Right. Here. So that's been kind of a COVID update, I guess, for everybody.
But it's a challenge, you know, as the show entrepreneur, you know, it's a challenge that we all face and you got to be prepared for when you start your business. You know, if you would have told me, you know, a year ago, if I was gonna start my business and this is going to happen, probably wouldn't have started it, or 3 years ago, you know? So it's
Really?
well, if you know it's gonna, if you know the crash, stock market's gonna crash 30%.
Yeah,
If you go back and look at your, you know,
I think if I mean, I can't say the same thing. I think I
if you knew
am broken and I have to do this anyway.
yeah.
I don't know what it comes down to, but
yeah.
but you also had, you know, a phenomenal job. You were making great income. I mean, you had it. You had it made when you were there.
Yeah, comforting, we'll say.
For sure.
Yep.
And by the way, I was doing great in my job as well when I was still there. But I think the overwhelming need to start something and to grow my own thing would push past even knowing that the market would be maybe in a bad place. I mean, I just I try not to give myself that excuse.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of entrepreneurship is not giving yourself the excuses
and
that
blocking
everybody
out the
else
noise,
does.
like we talked earlier. Just blocking out that noise and the outside. Just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. So what do you see moving forward now, and how is your life going to change as a business owner with this in mind? Because I don't think we've seen a pandemic of this size really affect every aspect of the world. How do you think your business is going to change in the future to kind of adapt to this? Are you going to have more people working from home, or the ability to work from home, or what does that look like for you?
So we're right now almost, I would say, like 95% or 100% cloud-based. Our company is.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Now, construction, we have the two project manager superintendents that they have to be on the job.
Sure.
So there is some stuff they can do from home, but not much. More of it would be me, and then I have another assistant that kind of virtually works. Basically, she helps me as a virtual assistant, we call her.
Right.
So we use Dropbox right now for our company, and then we use the Builder Trend program, and then, you know, we use those, you know, Gmail. So as far as how I see it affecting us, right, I don't think the home building or the commercial world may be affected right now. It might take 6 months to a year to be affected.
Just because of the lack of money in the system?
The lack of the money. People are going to be still a little weary of what's going to happen to the economy. The supply chain, as we all know, we get a lot of product, specifically construction product, from China. And, you know, we don't know yet what has happened over there with the manufacturing and whatnot. We've already, you know, we see price increases every year of a couple % on products like shingles and aluminum soffit and fascia, but we don't know for sure what's going to happen. They might come out in 3 more months and say shingles, or, you know, for example, siding is going up 15%.
Right.
You know, well, that'll slow it down. So right now there's no slowdown necessarily for me and our company, but I think it might happen.
Yeah.
I think it might happen. It may not be for, again, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, but I think it's going to happen.
I think when everybody's 401k starts diminishing and they realize it's not going to come back up for a long time, it gets really serious. Yeah. And a lot of that money that would get funneled into building a new home gets funneled into, you know, a savings account instead.
So, I mean, what are we doing? What am I doing personally? Now is the time to be creative. Get the you know, the video marketing, social media is more important now than ever. Yeah. People are sitting at home,
not doing anything,
and they're scrolling on their phones or they're scrolling on their iPads or whatever. So get your content out there and push. That's one thing I'd definitely recommend.
I agree. And I had a meeting with several other entrepreneurs last Friday, and we talked about that exact thing, about when the world is in mass chaos, when the world is, you know, freaking out and getting really conservative, there's often opportunity. Almost always there's opportunity for you to go the other direction, for you to make a stance, for you to change and be creative within your business model. And I think that is where that's the kind of the look, you know, the direction we took with it, is how can we effectively use, say, even the studio environment to help somebody live stream for a company meeting. Right. And we're literally doing that tomorrow, Thursday. And we're going to help somebody live stream, do a 1-to-many. So he'll be in here and he'll be talking to over close to 1,000 people, just from this studio. So we want to make sure his experience is amazing and let people know that just because that live event that's supposed to be a big deal for their company is over, that doesn't mean that the quality has to be webcam, you know, sitting in the dark in your computer with the dog barking in the background, right?
Kids screaming.
Kids screaming. So I think that's a really important part to do, is, like you said, be creative. Think of different ways you can help people. You know, my mom my mom is really a great businesswoman, and my dad same way. They're both very entrepreneurial in the way they think, and dad is an entrepreneur and mom works for Edward Jones. And the way that we've kind of approached it and how they've asked me to approach it is like literally just call people and say, how can I help you? Because you don't know, all their needs are changing right now. It could be live streaming. It could be help with process, could be help with setting up something like an Asana or a Builder Trend. So I think there's a big opportunity from a B2B standpoint just to help other businesses cope with this horrible crap that's happening.
And just like you hit it exactly right. Just check in on people. Whether if it's even if it's your friends and family.
Right.
You know, I have a friend up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, works in the telemedicine thing. So I always say it's basically your FaceTiming doctor technology. Okay. And he's pulling his hair out. I mean, he's working tons of hours. He has like 1 day off in a week and working multiple hours. And he's a guy that I need to check in on every few days. And he called me just last night and said, hey, how are you doing? How's construction going? And so I think it's an important time to not just check in on the B2B, but also your friends and family too.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you don't know, you have no idea how they're being affected until you ask. You know, you obviously know, restaurants obviously being hit really hard right now. I feel for everybody that's, you know, either a server or a restaurant owner right now. I mean, we're waiting on hopefully some sort of a, you know, relief package from the government. Literally today, we're hoping that that will get passed. And I think that'll help a lot, but it's going to make people get more creative overall. I think it's going to make people think about the different ways they can actually do business and interact with people. And I think it's really going to make people question, is what we're offering an essential product?
This is, I gave a shout out to you guys. I mean, this is the time for sure to reach out to someone like the Grindstone Media team and get that.
Thank you.
I mean, check them out. The product they're putting out is unbelievable. And this is the time to, again, like we just said a little bit ago, get out there and promote your stuff. People are, sad to say, but sitting on their couches scrolling Facebook and Instagram. That's what they're doing right now. That's all they're doing right now. So whether it's that or YouTube or LinkedIn, you know, reach out to someone, whether it's Grindstone or someone like them, to get your product out there, or try it yourself with an iPhone. Any product or any content is better than no content.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. And thank you for the nice plug there. I appreciate that. And I think that any way that you can create content, like he said, is great. Any sort of post, trying to relate. And I think just a simple post of like, how can I help you? I've got expertise in these 5 things. Is there anything I can help any of you with? And then maybe we can find a way to do some business together if so. And then I think one thing, if just from my business mind, I would say is going to be really helpful for people if you give them really great payment terms. And I know that this is not a time, you know, from a B2B standpoint where people are thinking about giving great business terms of payment, but if you can, you know, amortize or, you know, schedule out that cost over the time of say 6 months, so they can kind of recoup in the last 6 months instead of taking a 3-month hit or like a 1-month hit as far as the revenue that it's going to take to, you know,
you get a lot more respect and means a lot.
Yeah. And I think so just being flexible with your payment schedules right now is going to be super important. I think that business owners will find a lot of respect for you if you work with them in this crazy ass time and give them the ability to work with you.
Right.
Because the rigidity of certain institutions, you know, you're seeing a lot of institutions that are very rigid on how they're approaching this, and then they're seeing ones that are giving some leeway. And I think that the more flexible you can be, the better. So what advice would you give to anybody? And you've done a little bit of this already, but what advice would you give to anybody that's starting a business within this climate specifically now, if they do feel like they need to start a business right now?
Well, a couple things. I would definitely say make sure you have a little bit of what I'm going to call emergency savings, not just for personal, but for your business too, because you just never know when something's going to happen, whether if it's, you know, your own fault and or the economy again, or the client walks away. Have some cushion for yourself so you don't have to panic.
Yeah.
And you know, the other thing would be, again, we've said this a couple of times, we're pushing it a lot right now, but the social media, get on social media. If you're starting a brand new business, put stuff out there. People always say, well, I put it out there, I've put 5 posts, I've got 10 likes. Well, that doesn't necessarily matter. I run into multiple people throughout the week, throughout the weekend, and they say, hey, I saw your post about, you know, the dryer vent or the drywall. I'm like, you know, some people are like, well, why the hell didn't you like it?
I mean, like, I don't
Well,
care.
I don't care.
Yeah, it
You
doesn't
saw it. It's in your brain. You're thinking Blake Builders. That's the point.
Right.
Get the content out there. And that's what I would tell someone who's starting, don't worry about the likes and the followers right now. That's all going to fall into place for you.
Yeah.
Just content.
I think no matter when, like in this climate, yes, but in general, like
Right.
don't make that a thing that you think about. Make it about the content and make it about the people.
Right.
And the rest of the shit will fall in line.
Right. Yeah. So just take the risk and go. It is worth it.
Yeah.
That's and there's actually a quote from Gary Vee that I love, and I'm gonna say this wrong, I'm sure, but the only person you need permission from is you. So what that means is going back to like when I started the business, for example, or when I have other issues, don't block out the noise. Try to block out the noise when don't listen to someone who's negative, who maybe tried a business and they failed or whatever. You only need permission from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to get permission from whoever it is, an aunt or an uncle or a brother or a friend. Follow your dreams, and if you have the passion, do it, and it'll all work out.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's really great advice.
And networking.
Right.
That's another thing. There's multiple networking groups across the United States. Specifically in Lincoln, there's multiple different networking groups. Join a networking group. It's a very, very small investment, and it's worth it. Meet people. They're all going, and a lot of those people in those networking groups are small business owners,
mm-hmm.
and they're going through the same struggles, or they've started their own business, and they went through the same thing you are. So getting that mentorship and peer group around you is huge.
I heard something last night. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it was on Instagram, and he said, he had a lot of people asking him, like, what am I going to do? I think my company that I work for is going to go under, and I don't know what to do. Should I help try and bail the company out, or should I jump ship and go find a different ship, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that he phrased it was so spot on, but he basically said, this is not the opportunity to jump ship. If you want a leadership position, you're not going to jump ship and run over to somebody else's ship and become a leader right now. Mm-hmm. You may have some small opportunities. It may happen once or twice, but on the grand scheme, like, people are not looking to hire in those positions right now. What they're looking for is internal people to step up and take on more responsibility than they previously had.
Right. This is an opportunity to, take it and run.
Take it and run. And really, the way I look at it is the same way we look at it with our clients. Make yourself so invaluable to these clients or to your boss to where they literally couldn't fathom the idea of you not working for them.
Absolutely.
Because it'd be so painful to replace you.
Yeah.
That is the position you need to be in. And I tell our team to do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've made yourself irreplaceable.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for you.
Put in your hours, work that overtime if you need to, show them how much you care and how much you want that promotion or that raise or the whatever it is. So absolutely.
And it'll come, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have faith that it's going to be there. And obviously, like, if it doesn't over the period of time, if you give it so many months or so many years and it doesn't happen, like, you may have that conversation. But I would say, if you are thinking about, because this is a crazy time, a lot of unprecedented things here. If you are thinking about leaving your company, or you are thinking about leaving your boss, talk to him first, talk to her first.
Yeah. Don't just walk out
and ask and let them know, like, what's going on, and let them know what you're feeling, because they may be able to do something about it. Mm-hmm. And then B, they might just, I think this is an opportunity to just be good with communication, and let them know kind of like how you're feeling, like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit unstable about this whole thing. Can you give us some clarity as to where things are going? Mm-hmm. And then
that might be all you need
mm-hmm.
to get through this time.
And then ask the person literally this question: how can I help you? How can I help make this a less, horrible situation for you as the business owner?
Yep.
I think because they're, especially in the restaurant world, I see general managers, like, I think that's a huge opportunity for, if you're general labor, or you're a, you're working as a server at the current time, you're a host or a hostess at a certain time. This is an opportunity. If you're like, okay, if you still have a job, this is an opportunity to step up and be like, I want to do whatever's right for this company. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'll take a cut and still come in for a few weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, if
it's coming in and wiping down, cleaning tables and chairs.
Yeah. And if I see that in a person, I'm immediately marking that in my mind for a future promotion.
They care.
They care.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that you can't, it's really tough to find, and it's impossible to train. Is you have to make, finding people that care. Right. So I think there's a shortage of that. And I think that if you show up and when no one expects you to show up, I think that's going to work really well for you from the employee standpoint. And then, from the leadership standpoint, I think it's super important to just be transparent with your people. Hey, we're about to enter a storm.
Yeah.
This is happening, right? This is real.
We gotta watch what we're spending. We gotta watch our, where we're spending our time. Take care of our current clients, because those people are gonna do referrals. And
and they're a lifeline right now, especially if project revenue goes down and you're relying on your accounts receivable and recurring revenue. They're a lifeline, so you have to do whatever it takes to keep them happy and make sure that, again, you become invaluable to them. Right. And I think that's kind of been the trend of this podcast, and I'm glad you came on, man. And thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
Everybody, make sure you check out Blake Pittack, phenomenal builder. I've seen a lot of your builds on Facebook. I've seen some incredible work that you guys have done. I can't wait for you to build my house someday. That's on record. So now you have that.
Sounds good.
You can hit me in a few years with that. But I'm excited to see where we go from this point. I think it's gonna get a lot worse before it gets better. But in general, this is a really interesting thing to document, and it's a really interesting thing to look back on in 10 years. Be like, man, that was some crazy times.
Yeah,
people were closing businesses left and right. So, all right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for another episode of Spark to Fire. As I said before, I'm your host, Landon Rhodes. I'm here today with Blake Pittack. Thank you so much for coming on today, dude.
Absolutely. This is great.
Make sure you check out Blake Builders if you're looking to build a custom home, or if you need any light commercial work done in the future. These guys do a phenomenal job. As you can tell, Blake is very, high attention to detail person, very high integrity dude. I've known him for quite a while, and looking forward to building a home with you in the future. So thanks for coming on. And as usual, guys, you can find us at Spark to Fire Podcast on all social media. And as usual, keep striking.